In 1979, I was at San Francisco State. I graduated from women's studies. The first job I got, I was totally fried. Activist, just needing some, and I'm a cook. I've cooked before, and so I became the out lesbian chef at a new age, clothing optional resort up in Mendocino County. It was called the Village Oz, and structures all over the place, weekend massage weekends, meditation, all that stuff. And I was there the first summer in 79. In the fall, I went to the first March on Washington for lesbian and gay rights because I'd never been to D.C. I went by myself. It was an amazing trip. I went and lived in Hawaii for 7 or 8 months. I was a prep cook at the Aloha Cantina. My first day of work, the cook sliced her hand and I became the lunch person. The name Lani was everywhere, the Hawaiian culture, I just felt at home instantly. I went back and was the chef at the Village Oz, kitchen manager basically. In July, this young man comes hitchhiking through. The first thing he said, because everybody had to come in the kitchen and work, do karma yoga in the kitchen and in the garden. So his first night there, he came and he goes, wow, because there's feminist posters everywhere in the kitchen. And he goes, have you ever read Of Woman Born by Adrienne Rich? And I said, yeah. It talks about the institution of motherhood. It was a big book in the 70s that we used in women's studies. I said, yeah. He goes, oh, I'd love to discuss it with you. That would be great. No flirting, nothing. I'm going, wow, that's totally cool. And it just went on from there. Within a few weeks, we're sneaking around because the owner of the resort had a cartoon book and I was one of the main characters in the book. And I didn't want him to know that I was having sex with this young man because I was the lesbian cartoon character in the book. And then he caught us one day making out in the storage room. And then it was all in the open. Lon, what are you doing? You're not a lesbian. You're a bisexual. No, there's no such thing. We argued. I couldn't do it. My biphobia was so deep. And I knew when I went back to my community in San Francisco, this was 1980, I knew what I was facing. I was an out lesbian. I fell in love with a man. Whoops. I had to prove that I wasn't a traitor. I didn't want to be kicked out. It was my community. But the internalized biphobia was enormous. There I was in love with a man. Well, I was truly in love with this person. And how could that be wrong? When I moved back to the city, it was like horrible. It was so hard. I was like, the lesbian who fell from grace. I wasn't invited to parties because people thought I'd bring a man. Well, it's like you don't forget, like 4 years of lesbian feminist activism and stuff, and you think I'm with a man and I'm going to forget everything? No. Or really rude things would happen. Really, really hurtful things. Everything from people just talking like I was not there. After a big march, like a Now March for Choice in Golden Gate Park, everybody's very high. You feel good at the end, and we're standing around, and this lesbian who I knew had this infamous dog, little black lab, very sharp, always had a red scarf on her neck, the dog, was a legendary cross sniffer. This woman, who will remain nameless, made this loud announcement after this exhilarating march that her dog, Natalie, was never going to sniff my tainted crotch again. Announced it to everybody there. I didn't know everybody there. It was like so humiliating. What do you do with that? And her lover just said her name and she kind of withdrew, but it was just like sitting there. Or the shunning, people just not looking at me. I'm still doing the work. I'm producing women's dances, lesbian dances. I'm still producing, I'm still a member of the community like I was before and more so. But the only difference is I'm naming myself lesbian identified bisexual right away. You know, I dropped the lesbian identified after a while because I started realizing, well, it's more than that. You know, I'm bisexual. I have to say that several lesbians did stand strong with me. Bless them, because it was not easy for them to do. At the time, another interesting thing that I learned is that there was a bisexual center in San Francisco on Hayes Street, and they had it was internationally renowned. Support groups, social therapists, parent groups, newsletter. I mean, you know, it was a big deal. And so I went to their coming out group, all women, and every woman there said, how do you ask a woman to dance? What is it like to kiss a woman? Why are lesbians angry? You know, they were coming from a heterosexual place into bisexuality. And I was just like, I could answer all their questions. My question was, what do I do? I didn't ask it, but what do I do with this man? How do I integrate my life as a bisexual? Because I'm not going to leave that community. That's my heart was home in that lesbian and gay community. All this identity stuff is getting in the way of us taking care of the mess this world is in. It's just like we're human beings here together, and we need to start identifying ourselves as human beings with other living things, because our world is in big trouble, and if we don't gather, we might not be here.